A fake polling company that weighed in on the Democratic primary here in Wisconsin has shut down, calling their numbers showing Francesca Hong with more than a 20-point lead, part of a social experiment. Today, legitimate pollsters are responding as it raises questions about the betting process for those sharing the data. The fake polling company, which called itself Media and Strategies, has since shut down their website after releasing 3 recent polls involving the Democratic primary in Wisconsin and 2 other races in Nevada and California, admitting the numbers were completely made up.
I think the first thing is it's not a poll, it's just a fraud.
Charles Franklin is the poll director for Marquette Law School.
You know, it's like everybody that runs into a fraud of some kind is pretty upsetting. It's bad professionally, but it's also bad for readers and voters and the news media that somebody does this.
The fake pollster releasing a statement saying, quote, Media and Strategies was created as a short-term social experiment examining how purported polling information could enter and spread through the political information ecosystem without independent verification, end quote. Action 2 News did not share the poll, nor did any other news media in the state. However, it was the poll about the LA mayor's race showing Karen Bass up by double digits that gained attention after being shared by her campaign staff.
What really elevated it was when the LA mayor tweeted about it. That caught people's attention, and credit to the LA Times for tracking that down and developing this story that this outfit simply doesn't really exist.
That sharing was also noticed on prediction and betting markets, causing the price of a Bass win to rise by a few cents.
In this case, it doesn't seem like it had any effect, or at least not more than a tiny effect, but there's certainly the potential there. And this is a broader question of how or if those online betting markets can or should be regulated in a way to protect the public from bad information like this.
Those responsible also deny releasing the fake polls to benefit financially from a prediction or betting market tied to any political race outcomes.